Y'all hear those horns. Y'all know what time it is. It's time to play some toss. Welcome everyone to episode 14 of the Tristain on Sports Show Toss. It's your main man, friendly neighborhood T-Square. Tristain Thomas here with you. Thank you for joining us. We're so glad to be here. So glad you could join us. And let's get right into things with the state of the state. Now, folks, it's the holiday season. Goodwill, joy to you and me, all that good stuff. And one of my favorite parts about the holiday season are the movies. Now, there's no greater movie on the holidays to me than Home Alone 1 and 2. I watched it. Oh, and also A Christmas Story. A Christmas Story. Those are probably my top 3 all-time favorite holiday movies. But you know what? There was a brand new holiday movie that came out this past Thursday. And it's football related. You guys know what I'm talking about. We're in the state of the state. We're on the T-Squared Express heading to Motown to cover those Green Bay Packers as they starred in a movie called The Miracle in Motown as they beat the Detroit Lions on a Hail Mary, 61 yards, Rodgers to win that ball game 27-23. It was a game in which the Packers snatched victory from the jaws of defeat. This game could not have gotten off to a worse start for Green Bay. No running game to speak of. We're talking Eddie Lacy, a guy who broke curfew with Alonzo Harris. Alonzo Harris got cut earlier that day. They signed John Crockett off of the practice squad, who came in and gave a little bit of life to that running game, but there really wasn't one to speak of. Eddie Lacy had 5 carries for 4 yards after being benched for, a quarter, maybe a half, I think. No run game to speak of, so everything was on Aaron Rodgers' shoulders as well as those receivers' shoulders. And Rodgers had pretty decent numbers. It was almost a typical Aaron Rodgers type of performance. The accuracy was back, 24 of 36, 273 yards, 2 touchdowns, and kind of a pick that on the pass that he threw high that James Jones could have caught, but it went through his hands and right into a Lions defender's hands. Guys were dropping footballs left and right still, but the numbers come out to be pretty decent. And most of them, again, 61 yards on that final play. The Packers did not have a lead in this entire game except for the last few ticks. And really, there were no ticks. They got that lead on an untimed down at the end of the game of the face mask. And for those of you out there crying and bitching and kvetching and moaning and everything else about there not being a face mask, go ahead and go to facebook.com/TOnSportsShow. Go and look at our page and see the picture for yourselves very close up. He gets a thumb on that face mask. After he gets a thumb on the face mask, twisting his mask around, then he gets a hand on the jersey. That's what most Lions fans like to talk about. They don't like to talk about the thumb in the face mask. They like to talk about the fact that he grabbed on Aaron Rodgers' jersey. And that's what called it. Oh, and then Aaron Rodgers flips his chin strap up and makes it look worse than it actually was. A face mask is a face mask. Right is right, wrong is wrong. He made contact with the face mask with his thumb, causing his helmet to turn to the side. That's going to get flagged each and every single time. And not only that, but it's contact to the head of the quarterback. That's going to get flagged on itself every single time. So really, there were 2 penalties right there that could have been called. Each would have resulted in what exactly happened. An untimed down because there was no more time left on the clock. It's an untimed down because it's a defensive penalty. So stop crying, stop bitching about it. There was a face mask. There was a face mask. Clearly. Go ahead again, look at our Facebook page. You clearly see it, close up, thumb in the mask. There's going to be a flag every single time. So that's what gave the Packers a chance to win this game. What gets lost on this is the fact that they really prepared very well for this. The Packers really did wall off all of those Lion defenders, so they had a very good shot at catching this football. Richard Rodgers, what a fantastic job he did of even keeping track of that football as high as Aaron Rodgers threw it. I can't. When somebody says that a person absolutely uncorks a pass, just a bomb. That's what you mean. Rodgers crow hops, absolutely uncorks it high to the heavens and drops it accurately into his hands. The only other throw I could think of that was even remotely close to that was another Packers game. Brett Favre was a quarterback. Monday Night Football against the Vikings. I believe it was tied up 13-13, overtime. First offensive play in overtime. Packers had the ball. Rodgers to Jennings. I believe it was, I want to say it was like 80 some odd yards or something. Touchdown. And he was being guarded by Dre Bly. And I don't know how many people of you out there remember Dre Bly, but he was one of the top corners in the NFL for a very long time. Beats Dre Bly, game over in overtime. Packers win. So that's the only other pass I could really sit down and think of in Packers history that's even close to this play that happened on Thursday night. Hell of a throw by Rodgers. He threw the football 69 yards. 69 yards, high to the heavens, and was still supremely accurate. That's the crazy. He didn't throw it out of the end zone. He didn't throw it off to the sidelines. He gave his guys a chance to catch the football and to win this game. And that's exactly what happened. And regardless of even catching that pass, Richard Rodgers really had kind of his real breakout game. 8 catches, 146 yards, and a touchdown. He was productive all night. When they needed a catch and to kind of move the chains when they were making that comeback in the second half, he was there. He was really the only consistent pass catcher in this entire game. Davante Adams, yes, he had a touchdown catch, but he had a myriad of drops yet again. I don't know about you guys, but I'm getting really fed up. This is supposed to be the season where you take that next step. Okay. And in a system like this, and with the injuries that you have, especially to Jordan Nelson, but the injuries you have had all across this receiving core, you cannot afford to regress. You cannot afford to have a sophomore slump. This is your second year. You're supposed to make this big jump into being this big time receiver. You're hailed for your hands coming out of college. I sure as hell can't tell because you're dropping everything. He could go up and walk you the ball and hand it to you, and you would still somehow find a way to drop it. I don't know what's going on with this. I don't know if it's lack of attention to the fundamentals or to the details. I don't know if it's a lack of confidence. I don't know what it is, but it needs to get fixed. It needs to be addressed. I said last week that had Ty Montgomery been healthy, you would not be seeing Davante Adams on the field. I really believe that. If and when he gets healthy, you will see a lot more Ty Montgomery than you will Davante Adams, unless Davante Adams can somehow get it going over this last quarter of the season. Because now you got 4 games left. You're 8-4. The Vikings lost to the Seahawks this past Sunday, which gives you the division lead back. It's time to handle business. It's time for these myriad of drops. It's time for whatever quirks, whatever problems, whatever crap you got going on offensively to turn around. And they're really thinking that this game could be a launch pad for that. I'm not so sure because you still seen a lot of the same problems, especially in that first half. You were shut out the entire first half. I can't remember the last time that happened. You still have a long way to go. You still have a lot of work to do. Yes, this win is great because it gives you 8 wins. You've increased your chances of making the playoffs. You increase your chances of winning the division. Again, you're tied with the Vikings after their loss to Seattle this past Sunday. But you still have work to do. You still have a game against them. You have a tough game against the Cardinals coming up in a couple of weeks here. The Raiders, you should win against them, but I'm not going to put anything past those guys because their offense has been a lot better. Derek Carr, the guy can play. The guy can absolutely play, and he's got weapons. He's got Latavius Murray. He's got Amari Cooper. They've got some weapons out there. They can go. They can turn into a shootout really quick, which is something I don't think this Packers team can survive because their offense has been so awful. I think we can all agree and say that. It's been awful for a majority of the season. You got a game against the Cowboys upcoming up this Sunday. I believe it's the late game. I think it's the 325 game, 305, 325 game. Don't think that that's going to be an easy game because Tony Romo is not in on offense. Their defense is very good still. It's still a very good defense. So you're going to have another test. So do not go in thinking that, hey, we got this. This is an easy one, because you can get shocked. Again, you lost to, at the time, a 2-win Lions team at Lambeau. This is a 4-win Cowboys team who somehow is still in the running to win the division. We'll get to that a little bit later. You can't take these guys lightly. They had pretty much I don't know if it was good defense or if it was just bad offense on the part of both teams, but it was a slugfest on Monday night that came down to the wire, and they pulled out the win against a much tougher defensive squad in Washington than a lot of people give them credit for. Defensively, the Packers played a very good game. They just got put in some tough situations. That Aaron Rodgers interception was unsightly and untimely. Not that any interception is very timely. They kind of put the defense in a really tough spot, and credit to the Lions. They were able to go in and cash in with the Calvin Johnson touchdown to go up 17-0 at that point. But outside of that, they really played another pretty good game. You give up 23 points. As I said, Aaron Rodgers doesn't get intercepted at that point in the field. They very well could have given up 6-7 points less, and you're looking at another game in the teens given up by the defense. I can say this defense has been pretty good all season. They had their kind of hiccups during that 3-game losing streak, but you have to give them credit for the way they've been playing pretty much all year. They've been really the only consistent unit outside of special teams who has been decent. They haven't been awful. They've been much improved. They were more improved than they were last season. But they've been really the only consistent unit on this squad all season long. So you have to give those guys credit. They came up with a very timely turnover with the Julius Peppers strip sack and fumble recovery to put those guys in business. They needed it. This defense, again, keeps them in the game. They came up with the turnovers. They brought the pressure when they needed to. They were able to make plays. Guys had good games. Again, we spoke about Julius Peppers. He had a good game. Jake Ryan, the rookie, had 10 tackles. I mean, he was pretty much all over the field, and he's really, really starting to come along very nicely. If he continues that, I mean, that's just another cog in this defense that's a plus. So, again, kudos to that defense. They really played a very consistent game. Again, they gave up 23, but it should have been much less. I mean, if Aaron Rodgers doesn't turn the ball over there, you're looking at another game in the teens given up by the defense. So I have no beef with them. I think they played very well. Obviously, you as a defense, you'll give up a big play here and there. You're going up against professionals. And give credit to Detroit. Give credit to Detroit and their defense. This is 2 times that they've played the Packers extremely tough. At some point, you have to give them credit. You can't just say that the Packers are struggling so much. That's the only reason why Detroit was able to get a lead on them. And all. No, I've seen them up close. They played the Packers extremely tough. They played good defense on those guys. It wasn't just because the Packers have been struggling on offense all season long. Those guys really played a very good game against them. Very good games against them. So you have to be able to give them some of the credit. Some of it is due to the struggles of the Packers offense, but I think a little bit more of it is due to the fact that this is the second time that they've done this to the Packers, and they played them extremely tough. And it came down to an untimed down off of a face mask penalty that you guys got caught for them to win this game. So if you're the Lions, you're not into moral victories, but you have to take something away from this game saying, you know what, we had them. I think we played very well against them. It just came down to a mistake at the end, and they cashed in on it. So you have to feel good defensively if you're the Lions. Again, you're not in any type of position to be taking moral victories. That's not going to help put W's in the left column. But you have to be pleased with what you've seen out of them. And kudos to them because they've kind of turned things around as well. I mean, they've, like I said, 2 games, they've played the Packers extremely tough. Extremely tough. So you have to give them some credit. You're done with them for the year. You don't have to worry about them anymore. You hope they go and start ruining other people's seasons. I believe they still have a game against the Vikings, I believe. So if they can go and and ruin some things for those guys, that would be much appreciated. But again, Packers win. Miracle in Motown, 27-23. You got another game you cannot take lightly. And the Cowboys, who are still somehow, some way in the running for a division crown, a home playoff game. Yeah, we'll get to that a little bit later. So kudos to the Packers on that big win on Thursday. Let's handle business this Sunday against the Cowboys. 3:25, I believe, is the game time this Sunday. We hop on to the T-Squared Express and we move over to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, who had a hard-fought win against the Portland Trail Blazers. They get the W 90-88. I say that again, 90-88. Why am I repeating the score? I'm repeating the score because this is Bucks basketball. This is the way that the Bucks have to play the game in order to get W's. You're not going to go out there and outscore a bunch of people. You're not going to be able to go and get into a shootout and think you're going to win. You don't have the firepower to do that. What you have to do is what you did in that game against the Blazers. You have to share the basketball. Out of the 30 field goals that they made, because they did not shoot a very high percentage, out of the field goals that you made, the 30 that you made, you assisted on 22 of them. That is sharing the basketball. That's getting smart shots. You did not shoot a ton of threes, but the threes that you did, you really did not hit them at a high clip. But the flip side of that is, defensively, you did exactly the same thing to the Blazers. They did not shoot a very high percentage. I believe the Blazers shot only 38% in that game. That's making it ugly. That's what you want defensively. From three, they only shot 23%. I believe they were 8 for 34 from the three-point line. That's the Bucks perimeter defense coming back into play. And for the past, I would say maybe 3-4 games, obviously they had an ugly loss before this Blazer game, but you got to be encouraged with the way that this defense is starting to turn around and get going. This is what everybody's been waiting to see. This is a strength for this team, and I think everybody's really starting to get it. And Jason Kidd's making it more of an emphasis. We read the quote last week on Toss. He's making this an emphasis. He knows that, hey, if we're going to win this, look, we're not going to go and outshoot and outgun everybody. That's just not our style. What we have to do is make sure that they don't go and outgun us, make their field goal percentage very ugly, force them into some very tough shots from the perimeter, share the basketball on offense, and we're going to win. I've been saying that since before preseason. Okay, this is the formula in which they are going to win. And until they start playing this formula consistently, you're going to see a win here and 3 losses here, then a win here and then 3 losses here. You have to play this type of game consistently in order to win games. And I think Jason Kidd is really starting to hammer that point home. And I think it's really starting to sink into guys' heads. You know, they're pretty healthy. The guys are really playing in the roles that they should be in. And you're starting to see the results of that. Consistent lineups, consistent play. This is what you want. This is exactly what you want. Make it ugly defensively. Share the basketball offensively. If you can get some more out of that bench, you know, then you've got a formula for success. You have a formula for success. So what I want to see out of them over these next 3 games, because they have a murderer's row of ball games coming up. The next 3 are an absolute murderer's row of basketball games. You talk about a test, this is really going to put these guys to the test. I want to see them play the way they did against the Blazers, against all 3 of those squads, and I think they are capable of doing that. Their very next game, Wednesday night, against the Clippers, it is their very first Fear the Deer ball game, meaning they are going to put their alternate court out there. They're going to wear their alternate black unis, and I'm hoping that they go and they get down and get after it defensively and make sure that all this is not for show. You want to make them absolutely fear the deer out there. So that's the very first Fear the Deer game. So you have the Clippers on Wednesday night. Friday night, you travel to Toronto to take on the Raptors. Tough game. Then you come back home on Saturday to face the reigning, defending NBA world champion and currently still undefeated Golden State Warriors. That is a huge one. So you have a chance to you can either start to make some hay within that division and within the Eastern Conference, or you're going to fall farther behind. I think this team has everything it takes to make hay. I think they can win a couple of these games. It's going to be tough. It's going to be tough. These are three very good teams, all of them playoff teams from a year ago. You're facing the world champions on Saturday. If you can play like this, like you did against the Blazers, sharing the basketball, being stout defensively, especially on the perimeter, make sure you have those rim protectors down there. You can get these wins. You can get these games. Heck, people are saying, hey, the Bucks may have a chance against Golden State. Now, that's yet to be seen. I think Skip Bayless said, hey, they may be able to get the Warriors. If the Warriors don't get them, the Celtics may be able to get the Warriors, but the Bucks may be able to do it. If the Bucks play like they did against the Blazers, they absolutely can. They absolutely can, because I'm not sure that the Warriors have come up against a team that can play that kind of defense, especially on the perimeter, which is something that Golden State does extremely well. If you get up in those guys' faces, not even giving them any space to breathe, just be up on them, play them a little bit more physically than any other team has, you can win against them. That's the formula. You have to really play stout defensively. You really do. You have to be up in their grill, up in their jerseys, make sure they don't have just an ounce of air, an ounce of space to shoot anything, any threes, anything like that. The Bucks can do that if they play discipline, if they really go out there and play a full 48 minutes with that type of effort as they did against the Blazers, because it took all 48 minutes to beat those guys. You can beat the world champions. You can have a great 3-game stretch. You can beat the Clippers. You can beat the Raptors. You can beat the Warriors. You can, but it has to be like you did against the Blazers. You don't do that, you're going to have an 0-3 stretch and another losing streak. And you're going to have guys like me coming out of the woodworks, and not even out of the woodworks. I've been upfront and honest about it. So I don't come out of the woodworks. I don't hide from anybody. I always give everybody my Twitter. I give everybody my Facebook. You know how to reach me. I'm not running. I'm not hiding. I'm not scared. I always say this: when they get out of playing the type of basketball that they should be playing in order to win, yeah, I call them out. But then when they play games like this, yes, I'm going to be absolutely prideful of them. I'm going to show my pride. I'm going to show how proud I am of them. I don't waver either way. The facts are what they are. I talk about what I see on that basketball court, and what I saw against the Blazers was fantastic. What I saw was a glimpse of that team from last season that got after it defensively and shared the ball offensively. That is your recipe for winning. And if you can do that, you can get these 3 games, and you can quite possibly, if they come into that game undefeated, beat the Warriors, who we'll talk about them a little bit later. Or maybe we won't, because we all know how good they are. I mean, we already know how good they are. They've already tied the Heat for the second longest winning streak in NBA history. They've broken the record at 13-0 for best start on the road in the NBA season. They have a chance to make it to 33-0 legitimately, which is the longest winning streak in NBA history, done by the Lakers. They have a chance to make it there, but not if the Bucks play like they did last night. If they play like they did last night against those guys, that winning streak stops. That winning streak stops. And the story stops becoming a winning streak by the Warriors, but it becomes how the Bucks beat the Warriors and how stout defensively they are. And it really show that they're learning, that they're growing, and that they're becoming the problem that I still foresee them becoming in the NBA. So tough 3-game stretch, but a big win, hard fought, formulaic win. I can't even speak. Formulaic, I don't even think that's a word, win against the Blazers. So great job, guys. Keep it going. Fear the Deer night on Wednesday night. I'm looking forward to see how everything comes together for that. And I'm also looking forward to top flight competition, top flight defense, and top flight effort for all 48 minutes yet again. Put in that work, guys. We're going to continue with the state of the state, and we're going to travel on the T-Squared Express out to Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and we're going to talk a little bit of Milwaukee Brewers baseball. Now, The winter meetings are going on, and the winter meetings is really one of my favorite times in the offseason of Major League Baseball, because any and everything can and will happen during the winter meetings. You see some of the biggest signings for free agency. You see some of the biggest trades. Anything goes down. We've had some big moves. We had some trades when Ben Zobrist signs with the Cubs for 4 years of $56 million. The Cubs trade Starlin Castro, who was at the point in time the longest tenured Cub on that squad, a former All-Star, a guy who hit over 300 at one point in time in his career, to make room for Zobrist. Zach Greinke signs with the Diamondbacks. Nobody saw that coming. Nobody saw that coming. I mean, so it's a lot of things going down around the winter meetings at the same time of the winter meetings. As far as the Brewers, not too much is going down. David Stearns is a very busy guy. I'm looking at Tom Hardracourt's tweets, and he says that, hey, David Stearns got done with his spot on Chris Russo's show, High Heat, Mad Dog Chris Russo, on MLB Network, and he kind of just blew right by the media guys because, hey, he's a busy guy. He's trying to wheel, he's trying to deal, but nothing has come up as of yet right now for the Brewers. I know they made some coaching decisions. They made some moves well before the winter meetings even occurred. A lot of people are really trying to put a finger on the pulse of David Stearns and as far as what direction he's going to go in, what is he trying to do? And I don't think we really see that vision as of yet. I'm not sure what he's trying to do. Now, people also have speculation on who he's going to trade. The first name that comes up, and which is absolutely correct, is Adam Lind. A lot of people feel that he's not going to be a part of the Brewers when the season begins. And I am in agreement with that. And I think he really is looking for a trade partner for Adam Lind. He just hasn't had the right deal, hasn't found the right team, hasn't done anything yet. So nothing on that front has come along. But I think that is imminent. I think that's going to happen, and I think it's going to happen at the winter meetings. Another guy who people are crying and almost kind of begging to kind of get out of town as far as a trade, Ryan Braun. Now, I don't understand why people want him out of town. He was still pretty good this season. I mean, yeah, he didn't bat over 300. He didn't give you the 30 to 40 home runs and all the RBI that he usually gets you. He missed some games with injury, whatever, but he still was very consistent. Outside of Adam Lind and Francisco Rodriguez, he was really one of the few consistent players all season long. So I don't understand that. And we don't really need to understand it because he's not going anywhere. Okay. I said this before, I'll say it again. That $105 million contract extension that he signed a few years ago just starts this coming season. Too much money on the table. He's not going anywhere. He's not going anywhere. All right. So people are just going to have to get used to that. I would be absolutely shocked if Ryan Braun was moved. I would be absolutely shocked and floored if he gets moved. If you talk a couple of years, some of the money comes off of his contract, some of the money comes off of the books, then I can understand that. But if you're talking right now, this year's winter meetings, before this season, Ryan Braun gets moved from the Brewers, I would be floored. So I'm looking and waiting, and as myself and other baseball fans and guys who follow the game and follow the team, I'm waiting for the announcement that Adam Lind has been traded and see who we get, what we get, and kind of put a finger on the pulse of what direction David Stearns is going in. He's a tough guy to figure. I think he likes it that way, but I would love to see what direction that we're trying to go in as far as Milwaukee Brewers go. So the building continues. And that's the state of the state. The Packers made a brand new holiday movie called The Miracle on Motown. They beat the Lions on an untimed down 61-yard Hail Mary touchdown pass from Rodgers to Rodgers, and they beat them 27-23. Not sure if this is going to be the launch pad to fix all the ails of the offense, but it's a damn good win, and it puts you back in first place of the NFC North after the Vikings is lost. You guys are both tied. You hold the tiebreaker. You just need to keep winning. You're in that last quarter of the season. It's time to make hay. The Bucks with a hard-fought win against the Blazers, 90-88. They played the perfect formula for them to be able to win. Share the ball offensively, stop the ball on the perimeter defensively, and you're going to get a lot of wins. You have a murderer's row of games. You got the Clippers, the Raptors, and the world champion Warriors, who may be undefeated still at that point. You play this type of game, you're probably going to win all three of those. And the Brewers, they're rebuilding. And nobody can still figure out David Stearns and what direction he's going in. But I think he's enjoying that right now. Coming up on Toss, we're going to move over to the Toss Sweep. We got to speak some UFC. We got a huge fight card coming up this Saturday, one everybody's been waiting on. We got to talk NFL divisions. And we're talking some bad NFL divisions. Horrible. We'll be right back. Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON. Sports Show is your place for everything that we do not touch on during the show. If you want to hear some extra stories, some anecdotes, all that other good stuff, go ahead, like our page. Again, Facebook.com/T on Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. Welcome back to Toss, everybody. Your friendly neighborhood T-Squared Tristan Thomas here with you. And it's time to run the Toss Sweep. Now, as I said before, we have a huge fight card coming up for UFC 194. And it includes a fight that everybody has been waiting on since this past summer, me included. I can't wait for that fight. But there's really three fights that I am really interested in besides that one. Let's start off with Yoel Romero against Ronaldo Souza. I'm taking Yoel Romero in that fight. His last fight, he was just absolutely explosive. I think he's just a little bit more explosive than Souza. I think that will come into play. I don't foresee that fight going the distance, but I could be wrong. But I'm definitely taking Romero in that fight. We have the UFC Middleweight Championship on the line. The champ, Chris Weidman, going up against Luke Rockhold. Man, you want to talk about the potential for a slugfest? Here it is. Look, it's Weidman for me. I see no reason at all that he loses this fight. He's been a damn good champ. I have to take Weidman. He's just been fighting fantastic his last few fights. No hate on Luke Rockhold because I love watching the guy fight. If this turns into a slugfest, it goes either way. But I gotta take Weidman. I gotta take the champ on this one. I see no reason for him to lose this fight. I'll be shocked if he does. But the big fight, the one fight that everybody has been waiting on, myself included, everybody's just been licking their chops and wringing their hands and just waiting on this fight since the summer. UFC Featherweight Championship, undisputed Featherweight Championship is on the line. The Featherweight Champion, Jose Aldo. The interim Featherweight Champion, Conor McGregor, the notorious one, going at it this Saturday, December 12th. Ooh, man. Now, I've been saying the same thing to everyone I've been talking MMA with, especially my boy Carl Feltus. What's up, man? He and I are in the same boat on this one. It's going to be a closer fight than most people think. There's at one point in time where everybody felt that Aldo would just run through no matter who was in front of him. And I'm not saying he doesn't have that ability to, but you look at the road to when the first time they were going to fight, McGregor kind of got in his head a little bit. Now, he will never admit that, but you could see in how the guy decided to go and train. Ended up getting hurt because he wouldn't kind of lay off the way that he trained, getting very close to the fight. And the fight had to be obviously rearranged. You put in Chad Mendez for interim featherweight championship, and McGregor walks out victorious. McGregor's in his head a little bit. I really believe that. I really think so. He is really in his head. He's got Aldo in a way that many people would not put him in. Just angry, pissed off, just want to rip somebody's heart out. But I think that's where McGregor wants him to. He wants him to fight with so much emotion that he becomes blind and he makes some mistakes so he can go and make him pay for it. And that's what he's been doing over this past few fights. McGregor has really put it together. He has really been so consistent and so good in his last few fights. That's why he is the interim featherweight champion. This is for the undisputed featherweight championship. It is a fight we've all been waiting to see, much anticipated and rightfully so. It has potential to go either way. I am so split on who I could pick because McGregor is fighting so fantastic. Aldo, is he fully healthy? Is he in the right mindset? Is he too emotional where he will try to go and just absolutely destroy McGregor but make a mistake? Man, it's hard to pick this fight. It is really hard to pick this fight. But I'm going to give it a shot. And I'm going to say Aldo walks away with the undisputed featherweight championship. He's been so good for so long, hasn't lost in a long time. McGregor has been putting it all together his past few fights. He is an interim featherweight champion, but it's just something about Aldo. I could be wrong, but I just feel that Aldo's going to take that fight. But I think it's going to be one hell of a fight either way. I really do. I would not be surprised if it goes the distance, and I would not be surprised if somebody got knocked out early. You just don't know. There's so much emotion, so much going on into this fight that it's tough to call it. It is tough to call it. And I'm a guy who can usually just call it and say, this is how I feel. But in a fight, you just never know. You just never know. But I got to go Aldo on this one. And that's no slight to McGregor. I love McGregor. I love the way he's put it together. I love the way he's been consistent. But Aldo, man, he's been the champ for a long time for a reason. He hasn't lost for a long time for a reason. I got to give that edge to him until I see otherwise. So big night of fights on December 12th for UFC. I'm excited. I can't wait to watch. I'm hoping I'm right on some of these predictions, but then again, I'm just hoping for very, very good fights. So all my MMA heads out there, all my fight fans out there, we got a big one on Saturday, and I know we're all excited, and I hope everybody goes out, enjoys it. Enjoy it responsibly now. Enjoy it responsibly. If you're going to drink, make sure you got somebody driving you home that's sober, but go and enjoy the fights. Have a great time. This is a great time for fight fans. Continuing on the toss sweep, we had to talk NFL. And it's nothing really positive that we're going to talk about as far as NFL goes. We got to go there. We got to go in on these awful divisions. We got to talk about the NFC Least. We got to talk about we got to talk about the NFC South. And if I can't even come up with a horrible name for them, I call them the AFC Soft. And it's kind of hard to say that that division is soft with a guy like J.J. Watt being in that division. But when the rest of his team crumbles around him and they're not really playing very well, what can you do? The AFC South has the Colts and Texans as co-division leaders, but the Colts hold that tiebreaker against the Texans. So the Colts right now are leading the division, while the Texans, if the playoffs had started today, would be out. Both 6-6. The next closest team is the Jags, who are 4-8. They have been playing some pretty good football, but they've kind of faltered the last couple of games. And then you have the Titans, who Marcus Mariota, man, what a show he put on. I think it's the first quarterback in NFL, first player in NFL history to have, I think it was 250 passing yards, 3 passing touchdowns, and 100 rushing yards. The guy had an 87-yard touchdown run. What? Quarterback, 87-yard touchdown run. I knew the guy was mobile. I knew he could make some plays with his feet. But, man, how do you let a quarterback go 87 yards to the house? I don't even think Michael Vick has ever done that. I mean, man, that is nuts. I mean, he's legit. If they get some more players around him, they get some better pieces on defense, and you're looking at a very tough squad because that kid, he is playing very smart, and he is a very, very good player. He is very polished. So I really like what he's doing. But this division is awful. I already talked about the records. 6-6 for both the Colts and Texans, 4-8 for the Jags, and 3-9 for the Titans, and all of them are still in contention for the division. Like, are you kidding me? All of them are in contention for the division. I mean, I get it. The Colts and Texans are 500, but you got two well under 500 teams in the Jags and Titans, and both of those teams are still alive for a division championship. Who do you point the finger at on that? Do you just point the finger at those teams for playing so awful, or do you point the finger at their opponents for playing that much better and taking advantage of how awful that they play? I mean, what? And amazingly, all of them are still in contention for a division in the home playoff game. In an upper 4 seed. Like, are you serious with that? Like, that boggles my mind. It boggles my mind. But what boggles my mind more, because at least this division has two teams that are at 500. I mean, that's not winning. That's not losing. It's the equivalent of a draw. You're just as good as you are bad. But at least they have two teams that are at 500. The NFC East, or as we love to affectionately call it, the NFC Least. Your division leaders at this point, Washington holding the tiebreaker over all of them, so they're really the division leaders. But you have three teams tied at 5 and 7, and that's Washington, Philadelphia, and the New York Giants. The team that's in the basement that just won on Monday Night Football are the Cowboys. They're 4 and 8. They have a chance to win a division. They have a chance to host a home playoff game. And they're 4 and 8 at this point, and the other three teams are 5 and 7. I mean, you have got to be absolutely kidding me with this. And here's the interesting point about the Cowboys: they're 4 and 8. Romo rebroke his collarbone, and they have not officially put him on IR. They're still holding out hope that he can come back if this team makes the playoffs. That is the reality that we're living in. They're 4 and 8. They still have a shot at the playoffs. They have a shot at winning a division championship. They have not put their quarterback, who's broken his collarbone twice within this season, on IR because they're holding out hope that they can make the playoffs. A lot of people would make them seem very delusional, but they're not. That's the crazy thing. They are actually still in it. Now, some people like to look at this on the flip side and say, hey, this is great. The entire division is still in it. Every team has a shot at the crown. And then you have the other people who are saying, these are the crappiest teams ever. They don't deserve a playoff spot. What is the NFL doing? This is ruining the game. There's a lot of people up in arms about this. Now, look, I'm one of the people who was shocked and a little bit appalled that the Seahawks won the NFC West a few years back at 7 and 9. But those 7 and 9 Seattle Seahawks got into the playoffs and they won a playoff game. Yeah, they won a playoff game. They won a playoff game. I believe it was the Beastquake game, but he made an incredible run against the Saints. And I believe the Saints were the defending Super Bowl champions at that point in time, if I remember correctly. But they went in and they won a game. They won a game that year. So despite how awful a team is, how awful their regular season record is, it is absolutely true. When you get into that tournament, anything can happen. And we've seen it. But it was shocking to see a 7 and 9 team not only win their division, but to go in and make the playoffs, host a home playoff game, and actually beat a team. I think the Saints were like 11 and 5 that year or something like that. I mean, it's crazy to me. Like, so sometimes you just have to throw the records out, but this is just crazy. I really don't know if this is really good football by other teams and they're pounding these guys in both of these divisions, or if it's just really awful football by both of these teams. And we've seen some of the stuff on the field. They've played some really god-awful football. I mean, we've seen it. Well, I mean, Mike Tirico had a great line last night on Monday Night Football when he said that at one point in the game, this was a 9-9 pillow fight. I don't remember the last time I've laughed so hard at a comment, at somebody commenting, but I laughed hard at that because it was the absolute truth. It was some horrible offensive football being seen. Or was it maybe some pretty good defense? I mean, the Cowboys have a pretty decent defense, so maybe part of it was pretty decent defense. The Redskins also have a pretty decent defense. But both of these divisions, the AFC South or the AFC Soft, And the NFC East or the NFC Least, these teams are playing god-awful football. Just horrible football. And one of those teams is going to win the division. And I'm hoping they can somehow, some way pull that record to being over 500. But I don't see in the NFC East Washington ripping off 4 straight or even winning another. Who knows? Maybe they might win another 3 games. But I don't see anybody ripping off 4 straight in that division to get to 9-7 and win a championship. The winner of that division is probably going to be 8-8, 7-9. Gotta hope it's not 6-10, because then you're really going to see a lot of people up in arms. And at AFC South, I mean, at least those guys might have a chance to have a 9-7 winner there. But it's just it boggles my mind. But at the same time, hey, if you're a fan of these teams, you're saying, look, we're still in it. We are still in it. We still have a chance. We got to go and take it. You guys got to put together some good football, and we got to go and take this division. We're still in it. So happy for the fan base. They've got a shot, but everybody else is in here scratching their heads like, are you serious? One of these teams is going to win the division and host a home playoff game against the team that probably has double-digit wins. Are you serious? That's the NFL for you, though. They wanted more excitement, and they definitely got it with these 2 divisions. All those teams still in it, and only 2 of them are at 500. Everybody else under 500. Go figure. That's why they play the games. To finish off this run on the toss sweep, we got to hit up college football, and the Final Four have been announced, as well as the UW Badgers bowl game. CBS Sports, ESPN.com, as well as UWBadgers.com all had predictions of the Badgers playing in the Holiday Bowl, which is where they're going in San Diego. I believe that's December 30th. Those guys had the opponent either being Utah or Oregon. Well, they were wrong on both accounts. They're playing USC. I said last week that I was fine with an Oregon matchup. That's a great test. A Utah matchup, that's a great test. But now you're going up against a premier program in USC. And I think that is a fantastic game. I'm looking forward to it. I know those guys are looking forward to it. Again, Badgers fans travel so tremendously. There's going to be a lot of red in those stands. It's going to be ruckus at that Holiday Bowl. Great opponent, good bowl game. I'm happy for those guys, so I'm looking forward to that matchup. I'm definitely going to be on it. But as I mentioned before, the Final Four has been announced in the college football playoff game. Big ups to Michigan State and Iowa for playing the best championship game out of all of the college football championship games. An absolute defensive slugfest that went down to the wire, and Michigan State won that. You got to be proud of those 2 teams. They represented the Big Ten extremely well. Hard-hitting defense, good running, came down to the wire. It was a slugfest. It was tough to watch at points, but that's what a defensive slugfest is. A big play by Iowa, and then Michigan State marches down the field. I believe it was 22 plays, over 80 yards. Took up a lot of time, and they score on a running touchdown. I believe it was 4th and goal, and they got it with just a few seconds left. So it was a fantastic game to watch. So that knocks Iowa out of the Final Four. Your Final Four, 1 through 4, goes Clemson, which I don't think anybody had any doubts about. Had they lost the ACC championship, which the Tar Heels really got hosed on the offsides call, on the onside kick, which it was not offsides. Everybody had video evidence, continued to show it time and time again, showing them not offsides, but they called offsides, robbed them of a chance to go and even potentially tie the game in the ACC championship. So they got hosed on that, but Clemson won that game. There was no doubt they were going to be the number 1 overall seed after being the only undefeated team in the field. So they get to 13-0. They're the number 1 seed overall. Alabama, number 2, the SEC champion. They have really put it on. Their run game is probably the best out of all 4 teams. Their defense may be the best out of all 4 teams, but we'll see. They got some tough matchups. Number 3 went to Michigan State. I originally thought they would get a number 4 just because the committee doesn't really respect the Big Ten. And they really didn't have the big splashy wins. They really won a lot of close games. Obviously, the one that sticks out, the Michigan game, they won on that botched punt. And then the slugfest in the Big Ten championship game against Iowa. But they gave them respect. They gave them the number 3 seed. And then your number 4 seed is Oklahoma, who is the trendy pick to win because of how offensive of a juggernaut they are. I mean, they've been blowing some teams out as of late. So that's the trendy pick everybody's picking. Man, when it comes down to it, when you're in the playoffs, you're in this type of situation, you got to be able to run the football. You got to be able to play defense. That's why I think Alabama's probably going to take this. If they have a bad day defensively, they can get caught just because they're so adept at running the football. They're built for that, running the football, playing good defense. If they get into a shootout, I don't think it's a shootout they'll win. So they have to have a bad defensive day in order to be got. So I'm picking Alabama to win it all. A lot of people are getting on that Oklahoma train. They do have a fantastic offense. Baker Mayfield back there. Look, he's been putting on a show. But I got to go Alabama. Running the football, playing good defense. That's what I was raised up on. It works. It's won the multiple national championships. I got to go with them. So there's your Final Four, and that's the toss sweep. We got a big fight night coming up December 12th. Conor McGregor going up against Jose Aldo. Undisputed featherweight championship on the line. Looking forward to that. NFL's got some pretty bad divisions in the NFC Least and the AFC Soft. One of those guys, the two of those teams are going to win their division and host a playoff game against a team that probably has 10, 11, 12 wins. It's amazing to me. And the UW Badgers are going bowling against USC. Holiday Bowl, looking forward to that. And we have the Final Four, and you guys heard it here first. I'm picking Alabama as my overall national champion. And that's what it is. That's what it's going to be. This is Toss. All right, y'all, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is your friendly neighborhood T-Squared Tristain Thomas signing off on episode 14 of Toss, the Tristain on Sports Show. Again, thank you guys for listening. Can't thank you enough. I mean, it means the world to me that you guys are listening, enjoying, debating, getting at me. And speaking of getting at me, you know my Twitter handle at the20double. That's at the20double on Twitter. Get at me there, make some comments, debates, talk about games, a live tweet. You guys know what I do on there. I keep it entertaining. We're also on Facebook. That is facebook.com/TON That's TON Sports Show. We cover a lot of things that we don't get a chance to touch on the show. So make sure you guys like us and follow us there. Again, TON Sports Show. That's TON Sports Show. But as I said before, it's time for me to get on up out of here. This is Tristain Thomas reminding all of you that dreams don't catch themselves. Get up, get out, and get after it. Until next week, so long from Toss.